Few months ago, I moved to another city because of my new job. I was really excited. The building in which I bought my new apartment is very old. However, a year ago it was renovated, and now it has very modern design. I moved in really fast with my stuff. The new job is amazing. Payment is surprisingly high. I was satisfied. One night as I was observing TV when spontaneously a neighbor's baby started crying. Since their apartment is above my bed, I could hear almost every commotion emanating inside their apartment, even their footsteps because the walls were pretty thin. Firstly, I wasn't so disturbed by the baby. However, as the nights passed, that cry was becoming progressively infuriating. Thus, I was longer and longer awake. Also, frequently I would hear some sound of hitting, and I thought that they were most likely moving something around up there. Next morning, I woke up to go to work, and right when I was leaving my apartment, a young, pulchritudinous woman was going out of the same apartment in which I could hear that baby's cry. I greeted her in the elevator and notified her that the walls are pretty thin. So I begged her to move furniture around less frequently and try to quiet her baby next time because I have to go to work and I can't rest because of that disturbing commotion. She clearly had very nice personality and simply just smiled and replied, "No problem." That night when I was going to my apartment, before I even put the key in the lock, I still heard how that baby cried, and its whining seemed to never end. Even when I had a dinner, it started to be really irritating. I really loved to observe the view from the balcony. It was really nice, plus that was the only place in my room in which I couldn't hear that baby crying or someone moving furniture around. However, I managed to fall asleep fast alongside the baby crying, probably because I was tired. However, in the middle of the night, I dreamed about something weird. I woke up immediately and I couldn't move my arms and legs. My common sense was telling me it was just sleep paralysis. However, I still felt very frightened. I was observing my legs, hoping that I could move them, but there was no chance I could. So I looked up a little bit on the ceiling, and to my surprise, I saw that woman that was in the elevator about a day ago. Her eyes were bleeding, her skin was peeling, and her hair was wet. So droplets were falling on my face from her disgusting and wet hair. She also produced some creepy sounds. I was attempting to scream, however, I couldn't even produce a note. At the last stages of my sleep paralysis, I was choking. But spontaneously, I was able to move again. I was scared and drank a glass of water. That was my first sleep paralysis ever, and I hope it's also last. And all of a sudden, I heard light hitting on the wall from the neighbor. I came closer and asked him to lower the volume of his work because I couldn't sleep from that commotion, but hitting just continued. I got out of my apartment and knocked on the neighbor's door, but nobody answered. In fact, only other neighbors were coming out and were looking at me while being confused and little scared. When I noticed that nobody was answering, I headed towards reception to file a report. I approached one guy who was working a night shift and complained how people from the room 401 were producing a loud commotion that disturbed and irritated me so much I couldn't sleep. He looked at me confused and replied how there is nobody in the room 401. I thought he heard that falsely, so I said the room again, and he simply just gave me the pamphlet of all people in all rooms, and I was provided with adequate evidence that nobody was actually in the room 401. I was confused because only my apartment was affected by it, so I asked what could be making those sounds, and he replied how in that room there was a woman who committed suicide after murdering her child. She reportedly drowned her child in the bathtub and she hanged herself. Also in the room 402, the room I was in, 10 years ago, there was a case in which one teen committed suicide because of his schizophrenia. He hallucinated ghosts and miscellaneous spirits, so he chugged 10 liters of boiled water